I wasn't looking for the truth. It lit up on the screen by itself. I wasn't suspicious. I wasn't checking. I wasn't trying to catch anything. We were already late, stuck in traffic, and she asked me to put the address into the navigation. Her phone was closer than mine. That was it. That was the entire reason I picked it up. The screen woke up in my hand, and for half a second my brain didn't understand what it was seeing. A name I didn't recognize, a message that didn't belong to our life. Can't stop thinking about last night. Wish you were here instead. I remember staring at it like it was written in another language. Like if I just looked long enough, the meaning would rearrange itself into something harmless, something explainable. It didn't. That was the moment our marriage ended. Not later, not during the argument, not when the truth came out. Right there, in the car, with the turn signal clicking softly in the background, the radio playing a song neither of us was really listening to. We had been together for 11 years. Not the dramatic kind, not the social media perfect kind, the quiet, built kind. The kind where you stop introducing yourselves as my partner and start saying we without thinking. The kind where you share calendars, passwords, grocery lists. A life so intertwined it feels inefficient to imagine it any other way. We had routines that felt permanent. Sunday grocery shopping, Tuesday leftovers, falling asleep to the same show we'd both already seen, arguing about nothing important, planning vacations we might never take. I trusted her in a way that didn't feel like trust anymore and felt like gravity. Just something that existed. Something you didn't question because questioning it would feel absurd. I used to think that was what people meant when they said they were happy. She was talking while I stared at the screen. Something about traffic, or work, or dinner. I don't remember. I locked the phone and handed it back to her without saying a word. My hands were shaking, but not enough for her to notice. She smiled at me. That familiar smile. The one I'd seen thousands of times. And suddenly I was wondering how long she'd been wearing it for someone else. I didn't confront her right away. I wish I could say it was because I was being thoughtful or calm. The truth is, I was terrified. Saying something would make it real. Saying something would mean there was no going back to 5 minutes earlier, to the version of myself who didn't know. So I waited. That night, after she fell asleep, I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying the message over and over. Last night. Not a mistake. Not a joke. A continuation. A thread I hadn't been part of. I kept telling myself there had to be an explanation. There always is, right? The next day, I picked up her phone again. This time, I was looking. I hated myself for how natural it felt, how quickly my hands moved, how my heart didn't race. It sank, slow and heavy, like it already knew what it was about to find. There were more messages, not explicit, worse than that, familiar, comfortable, intimate in a way that takes time. The kind of intimacy built in stolen minutes and shared complaints. Inside jokes I'd never heard. Complaints about work I recognized, mentions of places I'd been with her. And then I saw it. A pattern. Lunch breaks that ran long. Late meetings. Business trips that suddenly made more sense. Gaps in conversations where she'd gone quiet with me and louder with someone else. It wasn't one bad decision. It was a life she'd been living parallel to ours. What shocked me most wasn't the betrayal. It was how normal everything still looked. She made coffee the same way, asked about my day, complained about the same coworker she always complained about. Except now I realized that coworker wasn't the problem. She was capable of lying without changing her tone. I started questioning everything, every memory, every moment I'd felt close to her. Had she been texting him while sitting next to me on the couch? Had she thought about him when she kissed me goodbye? Had she compared us? The past didn't disappear. It curdled. When I finally confronted her, it wasn't dramatic. No yelling, no throwing things. I just sat across from her at the kitchen table and asked, "How long?" Her face didn't collapse the way I expected. There was no shock, just a kind of tired resignation. like she'd been preparing for this conversation without me knowing. She told me pieces of the truth, enough to sound honest, not enough to hurt herself. It had started emotionally. She hadn't meant for it to go that far. She never planned to hurt me. I remember nodding like these were answers. They weren't. The worst part wasn't imagining them together. It was realizing how lonely I'd been without knowing it. I thought we were choosing each other every day. I didn't realize I was choosing her alone. Trust doesn't explode, it erodes. After that conversation, nothing felt solid. I couldn't sleep. I replayed words, glances, pauses. I watched her like a stranger wearing my wife's face. Every notification made my chest tighten. Every silence felt loud. I hated who I was becoming, suspicious, quiet, distant, but I couldn't go back to who I'd been. That person didn't exist anymore. She ended it with him. At least that's what she said. But endings like that aren't clean. They leave residue, awkwardness, regret, messages you don't delete right away because deleting them feels too final. I didn't ask to see proof. Part of me didn't want it, because if I couldn't trust her word, then there was nothing left to rebuild. We tried to continue. That's the word people use. Tried. We went to work. We ate dinner. We sat on the same couch with an invisible space between us. Sometimes she would reach for my hand and I'd let her, even though it felt unfamiliar. Sometimes I'd pull away without meaning to. Love didn't vanish. Safety did. Eventually, we had a conversation neither of us had planned. About space, about distance, about whether staying was just a slower kind of leaving. There was no villain speech, no closure monologue. Just two people realizing that something precious had been damaged beyond recognition. We didn't end because we stopped caring. We ended because caring wasn't enough anymore. I still think about that moment in the car. How close we were to remaining the people we thought we were. How thin the line was between ignorance and knowledge. I didn't go looking for the truth, but once you see it, you don't get to unsee it. And the hardest thing I've learned is this. You can build a life with someone for years. You can be happy. You can be faithful. And still lose everything in a second you never planned for, ever.